Hi. Thailand is a wonderful place. It's a blend of both the ancient and the modern. It's also a very exciting, beguiling, and sensual place. I've called Bangkok my home now for over 10 years, and I'm very happy here. So when Thailand and Cambodia began shooting at each other in a border conflict not too far from where I live, I started looking into regional politics. And I seem to have solved that border conflict, but I got drawn into a story of intrigue and spies and foreign influence and money pouring into this country since the end of World War II for 80 years now. Foreign influences have had an impact on Thai culture far beyond anything that I ever would have imagined. While I'm starting this video on a shopping trip, there is a purpose to my method here that fits in with the theme of the video. I'm coming to buy a Jim Thompson shirt. This fits in perfectly with the story I'm about to tell you. I'm standing in front of Alexander MacDonald's legacy, the Bangkok Post building. Alexander MacDonald was very successful at getting his newspaper up and running, and it became what it is today. The paper, or the English-speaking paper in Southeast Asia with the largest circulation. Very successful newspaper. Jim Thompson and Alexander MacDonald were American spies. And I'm starting off the video with them, and I'll include them in the story later on down the road. But who I want to talk about today is one of their OSS CIA colleagues, a gentleman by the name of Patpong. Now, if you're a Western expat who has visited Bangkok, Patpong may ring a bell. It's the name of one of the more popular red light districts in central Bangkok. And it's named after Udham's family. In the 1930s, Udham's father was a very wealthy merchant. He was a very successful Thai-Chinese immigrant who traded in cement and rice on the Chao Phraya River, and he had done very well. He also bought a farm, a banana plantation in central Bangkok, and he wanted to use that property as a gathering place for his very large family and expanding business associates. At the time, Udham was in London, very much in the same fashion that many wealthy Thai families do today. They send their kids off to Western universities. Udham was studying at the London School of Economics. While Udham was in London studying, World War II broke out, and the Japanese occupied Thailand. Now, it was kind of a mutual agreement between the sitting Thai government and the Japanese government. The Thais knew that they couldn't beat the Japanese at war, so they just acquiesced, and the sitting Thai government became kind of a puppet government to the Japanese. The Japanese occupied Thailand, started using it to supply their army, and they also confiscated the Patpong family plantation and used the structure on that plantation as a headquarters for their military police. Now, Udham back in London wasn't particularly happy about that. As a matter of fact, most high society Thais were pretty unhappy with the whole Japanese occupation thing. Udham joined the Sri Thai, or the Free Thai movement. Now, he was in it overseas, but it was a clandestine operation, kind of like the French resistance when the Nazis were occupying France, similar to that type of loose-knit organization. And the Free Thai movement's objectives were to undermine the Japanese war efforts through sabotage and espionage. During that time, The United States had formed the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services. That was a military spy agency designed purposely for the express purpose of intelligence gathering, espionage, and counterintelligence, all that kind of cool stuff. Prior to that, the United States didn't really have an agency, a big agency that did that type of thing. So the OS under Bill Donovan was the first OSS commander. They recruited Udom, sent him to Fort Benning, Georgia, where he underwent paratrooper training. And then from Georgia, he went to Sri Lanka to train in the methods that he would be using back in Thailand to form guerrilla groups and help expedite the rescue of downed Allied pilots, and to cause as much trouble as he could organizing the different factions in Thailand against the Japanese occupation. It was in Sri Lanka where Udom met Jim Thompson, who was now a major, I believe. I know he retired from the service as a major, and Alexander MacDonald, who was a naval officer. You'll have to forgive me, I'm not that familiar with naval ranks. I was in the Army. But MacDonald was a naval officer equivalent to a major as well, at least when he got out of the service in '45. That was their ranks. But it was there in Sri Lanka where they were undergoing, their intense jungle training and how to be spies for the United States. It was actually pretty dangerous work, and Thompson and MacDonald had already established themselves as quite accomplished in that world. They were actually war heroes, both those men. And but that's where Udom met these two gentlemen and became good friends. And Thompson remained good friends with the Patpong family for the remainder of his life. Udom's mission to conduct reconnaissance, sabotage, rescue Allied pilots, that whole plan never happened. The Allies, the Americans, bombed Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and the war with Japan abruptly ended. So Udom never really saw combat. But when he returned to Thailand, he was a trained OSS officer. And some really interesting stuff grew out of that association. Post-war Asia was a mess. Thailand, while there had been some combat missions and bombings that had occurred in Thailand, it was less damaged than a lot of the rest of the region. And a lot of rebuilding was beginning to take place. Udom came home and he developed the banana farm, the former headquarters for the Japanese military police. He took that property back over and developed it into a commercial property. A commercial property, and many of the buildings that he erected are still there today. 3- and 4-story style townhouses, which were kind of state-of-the-art for Bangkok at the time. They just look like old buildings now. But what he was putting in there were commercial spaces for the businesses around the globe that were seeking to come to Asia to profit from the rebuilding efforts that would be going on and would be funded by various government sources around the world. So put yourself in that position. You're the CEO of a giant company. Where would you go to get advice as to where to set up your headquarters in Asia? You would probably go to your embassy or your foreign service office and ask advice of the officials there. They, in turn, would send you, most likely, or they would inquire with the ambassador to Thailand. The U.S. ambassador to Thailand was Bill Donovan. The old OSS chief had now risen up to the rank of ambassador. Jim Thompson had become the head of the OSS office, and Alexander MacDonald was living in a palace on the grounds of the Royal Thai Palace. I got that from his autobiography. He was having a damn good time there. And you would inquire to them where can I send these corporate entities to go build out their headquarters? So they just refer them to Udom. And that's exactly what happened. Udom rented to Air France, TWA, IBM, Caltech, Shell. Who am I leaving out? The United Press International. These were all some of the earlier tenants of Patpong. Now, anybody that knows Thailand pretty well, you're going to understand what I'm about to say. If you put in place a bunch of executives, military people, spies, the CIA rented an office there as well when the OSS was disbanded by Truman, and they formed the CIA, made spy work a civilian effort rather than military. The CIA rented from Udom as well. So MacDonald, Thompson, and others, there were other people involved in that, were funneling all of this economic energy into Udom's commercial development. So again, if you put all of these people with good salaries in place, what's going to come next are the girls. Now, they're going to, the Thai ladies came to work what they do. And my first impression when I learned all this about 3 years ago was that the red light district that emerged out of all of those efforts was an unintended consequence. But since I began studying the clandestine kind of stuff that's been going on here in Thailand ever since the end of World War II and is still going on today, this is a den of spooks here. Believe me, I'm learning more and more about it every day. And I've also learned that the CIA, not in the late 40s, early 50s, in the era that I'm talking about now, but soon after that, as problems began to emerge in Asia with the French trying to go back into Indochina and that turning into the American-Vietnam War and all of the energy around that, the Korean War was yet to happen. So all of this kind of anti-communist fervor that was bubbling up and not quite in place yet was going to take place down the road, and I'll be talking about all of that in future videos. There's quite a lot of interesting stuff going on there. But as I'm studying and learning about these kind of clandestine operations, that many of which were based right out of Patpong, part of that involved money laundering through prostitution. So I'm not so certain anymore that the consequence of the early efforts at Patpong's commercial development were unintended. I haven't connected the dots on that yet, so I can't say that with any certainty, but I'm beginning to believe, I'm beginning to doubt the unintendedness that I first presumed when I was learning all of this. When I first came to Bangkok, I visited the Jim Thompson house, which is now a museum here in Bangkok. If you're coming to visit Bangkok, I recommend it. It's a very interesting exhibit and worth the, I think, 1,200 baht that they charge as an entry fee. It is a charity organization now, so it's money well spent. It's also really interesting. But that's what fired my interest up on the spy craft that began back then and is still going on now. Alexander MacDonald, I learned about him from his autobiography. And one of the things that sticks out in my mind is, I said earlier that he was literally living in a palace with royal servants taking care of him, this officer, this major level officer in the Navy, different rank, sorry, I don't know what they are. And he was being treated, way above his pay grade. He didn't want to go home. And he didn't. Stayed here, started a newspaper. And the reason that he said that he was deciding to stay in Bangkok was because he had eaten of the lotus blossom. Now that's a quote, and it's metaphorical. It could mean a lot of different things, but I think I know what he meant by that. When Udom Patpong died in 1996, the Thai Ministry of Land Management valued his real estate holdings at $100 million, and they were producing approximately $3 million a year in rental incomes, showing, I suppose, that Spycraft can be a profitable business. Alexander MacDonald left Thailand in 1950 after a military coup installed a prime minister that was antagonistic toward the idea of having a CIA spook running a Bangkok newspaper. Al went back to Massachusetts, where he started the Marblehead Messenger, another newspaper that he ran and edited until he died in 1966. He was 92 years old. In 1947, U.S. President Harry Truman disbanded the OSS. Jim did not go over to the CIA. He was friends with General Edmund Black, who was in command of all the U.S. forces in Thailand in the 1960s. So Jim stayed in touch with that world. There are many controversies about him regarding his connections with Thai politics, U.S. politics. He needed a break, so he took a weekend off and went to the Cameron Heights in Malaysia to a cottage where he was meeting up with a wealthy friend from Singapore on Easter weekend in 1967. He decided to go out for a hike in the jungle, and he disappeared, never to be seen again. If you like conspiracy theories, go down that rabbit hole. There are plenty of different ideas about what might have happened to him. Truth is, nobody knows for sure. He just kind of disappeared. And that was the end of Jim Thompson and his story. So I made detailed biographical videos about 3 years ago about Jim Thompson and Alexander MacDonald. They'll pop up here at the end of the video in these little rectangles. If you are watching this on X, you can find links in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.